Hey everyone, I'm Selena Hill, and this is the new norm on Black Enterprise, where I speak to dynamic leaders, entrepreneurs, and public figures about their latest projects and the impact they're making in today's world. Today, I have the privilege to speak with Felecia Hatcher, a serial entrepreneur, author, investor, and the CEO of Black Ambition Prize, a nonprofit led by Grammy award winning artist Pharrell Williams, and invests capital and resources in high growth startups founded by Black and Latinx entrepreneurs. In that role, Felecia has invested in over 100 entrepreneurs that have raised more than $95 million. Felecia is also the host of Culture Capital, a new series by Comcast NBCUniversal that highlights a diverse group of entrepreneurs. Felecia, thank you so much for joining us on Black Enterprise today.
Thank you so much for the invitation.
So, before we jump into your current projects, which I'm super excited to talk about, I wanted to take it back a little bit to the beginning of your journey when you were working in marketing for leading corporate brands like Nintendo, Sony, and the Minnesota Timberwolves. Can you talk to us about when and how your journey began?
Ooh, a very non-traditional pathway to my corporate career, and so non-traditional student, uh, dropped out of college, senior year to pursue entrepreneurship, only for my business to be stolen from me by an employee. I swore I'd never ever be an entrepreneur ever again, and worked in corporate America in experiential marketing for a while, and so traveled all around the United States, marketing and launching brands for some of the coolest, most innovative companies in the world. And when the economy tanked in 2008, I found my way back into entrepreneurship literally because I had no other choice. And so seeing entrepreneurs weather the storm of the pandemic, and even right now where things just feel really uncertain from an investment standpoint, from an entrepreneurship standpoint, the political climate is really weird and iffy and crazy. I understand what that means on like a cellular level as an entrepreneur that back in 2008 went through that exact same journey of building a company, then building community, then selling a company, selling a conference, launching a conference, all the different things. But my corporate experience working for Nintendo and for Sony, as well as the MBA, really kind of shaped so many different things. More so, it helped me fully understand what how fast dreams can actualize when they're capitalized, right? Is that the power of partnerships as well, and then realizing how to transfer those skills into entrepreneurship where you have the ideas at that level, you don't have the capital at that level, and how to get really creative with limited resources. And so that kind of sums up my corporate career that kind of came to a screeching halt when in the economic downturn of 2008, but that launched me into back into entrepreneurship.
And I read, Felecia, that you had a popsicle company,
Mhm.
Feverish. You are the co-founder of Black Tech Week. How many businesses and business ventures would you say you sort of founded throughout your journey?
There are a lot that I don't even talk about. I'm half Jamaican, so there's
That
the
explains
what's
it.
the saying that Jamaicans got a lot of jobs. I got a lot of jobs, but I also have a really big heart, and I feel I always talk about, in the business world we talk about ROI, return on investment, and I really kind of focus on ROS, which is a return on sacrifice for everyone that has come before us, so that we even have the luxury, and we're calling it luxury, but if we think about the sacrifices that came before us, the time that we live in right now, to be able to innovate in the way that we can, from take an idea and turn it into something, to raise money, to build partnerships, to get products on shelves. Even though entrepreneurship will punch you in the gut, it's still in a lot of ways an opportunity that was not necessarily afforded to the people that have come before us. And so I'm able to do a lot of different things because I've also zoned into my genius, and so my genius shows up across all the different things that I've done. But I've had a really wide scope of experiences in so many different ways, but I've had a lot of, I've had a few ideas that have failed along the way, right? And so I had a PR company that crashed and burned, not even worth talking about, early in my 20s, and I thought I knew what I was doing, and I didn't really. I invested in a hip hop ice cream shop maybe about 3 or 4 years ago that didn't turn out to be a worthy financial investment for me. And so I've had probably more failures than success, even though it feels externally like I've been on this really amazing road. There's been a lot of sleepless nights and some ideas that just did not pan out the way that I intended them to pan out.
You know, Felicia, we always say we see the highlight reel of
Mhm.
everyone's life because of social media. What, you know, what I know you talked about some of the challenges that you faced, especially with that first business that was stolen from you.
Mm.
What would you say has been the biggest challenge that you faced as an entrepreneur, and how did it make you a better business leader?
Oof, there's not one that trumps all of them. I would say not fully understanding how to build a team has been detrimental in a lot of different ways. And that's why I focus on it so much with the entrepreneurs in our program, of like fully understanding what it means to have not only be building a company that is focused on becoming an employer, but then also building a team. And I mean from a team from the company that you're building, but then a team from your life and your personal life as well. And so I'm a black woman, entrepreneur, executive, investor. I'm also the mom of two, and I've been married for 15 years. And I would say, in addition to just building the team that supports the companies and the enterprises that I run and I support, I would say the biggest lesson I had to learn was also building a team to help me just take the cape off and really be able to have sustainability in the work that I do. And so I call myself an outsource queen now. Like if I can outsource it, I'm gonna outsource it. And if I realize that I'm veering into something that is not my zone of genius, I am quick to tell my team that it's not my zone of genius, but let's go find whose zone of genius it is and bring them into the fold so that we can continue to do our best work.
Felicia, folks who follow you know you speak a lot about zone of
Mhm.
genius. I know you mentioned it a few times here. Let the folks know who aren't familiar with that phrase, what it means, and did you coin that?
I didn't coin it at all. I wish I did. I coined zone of opportunity. That's different, a little bit different, but in the same vein. I have experienced burnout twice in my corporate career. I do not wish burnout on my worst enemy. It just kind of seeps into you, and really not only affects you, but then also your work. And I think when we are out of alignment and things feel very chaotic, we either make very poor choices or no choices at all. And so it was that second bout of burnout where this book came into my life called The Big Leap. And I have been carrying it around. I posted it on Instagram. Like was reading it. I hadn't really read the book, I'm going to tell you, to be honest. And then when I just kind of hit that yellow brick road, that big brick road of burnout, there's a Bruce Lee quote: when the student is ready, the teacher appears. And I kind of picked that book back up with a different set of eyes, and it absolutely changed my life. And so, it's a book by Gay Hendricks called The Big Leap, and in it is a 4 point quadrant that changed my life: the zone, your zone of incompetence, your zone of competence, your zone of excellence, and then truly being able to get to your zone of genius. And you cannot pull your zone of genius out of thin air. You literally have to go through that process of elimination first. What are the things that I suck at? I am not good at. I'm the worst in the world at doing. Being very honest, it's okay to say you. There are just things that are not, you can't do, and if you do, you honestly cause more harm than good. Then they're the things in your zone of competence. You know how to do them, but they're not the best use of your time, your resources, your dollars, your talent, your people. You also need to stop doing those things. Then you have your zone of excellence. You are really good at these things, but you're comfortable here. You have a comfort zone. And we know nothing exceptional happens in your comfort zone, but you can kind of coast along. But Selena, I think you're like me. You don't want a comfortable life. You want an exceptional life. And that's where your zone of genius is. It sounds like when you get into your zone of genius, you actually do more work, you actually do less, because you have an ease and a flow and a confidence and a trust. And when you show up in only the way you show up in the thing that you do better than anybody else, things happen. They happen for you and they happen through you in support of other people. And so when you hear people say they've been working for hours and it's only felt like minutes, they're really talking about they're in their zone of genius. And when they say like money doesn't matter, you're just like, of course money matters, right? Or the money will come eventually. You just stick to your thing. They're talking about being in your genius. You get to unlock unlimited financial opportunities as a result of the clarity that you get when you say, this is my genius. It also gives you barriers so that people don't constantly ask you, can you do things that are not in it? And so I love it because it was transformational for me. I love it so much. I trained under Gay Hendricks and Kathy Hendricks for 2 years, just to fully understand the utility of it and then how I can apply that to the business world because they're psychologists, right? And so I use it every chance that I get. But from a productivity standpoint, it has changed my team. It has changed the entrepreneurs around me. And more than anything, I love when I get to walk into the genius of other people. You know, you ever walk into a store and you're just like, this place just feels different. Like everything just clicks and there's an excitement and there's an energy. You can't put your finger on it, but you're like, this is someone's genius that I walk into. And as an entrepreneur that supports entrepreneurs, that's the work that I get to do. I think that's even the feeling that I have felt about culture capital as well, is like walking into someone else's genius to create that storytelling platform, but moreover, being able to hear the genius of like 9 really brilliant entrepreneurs as well.
Yes, Felicia. And before we jump into
Mhm.
cultural capital, I love how you said, you're an entrepreneur that supports other entrepreneurs. Most famously for being the CEO of Pharrell's Black
Mhm.
Ambition. Can you talk about how you even met Pharrell and how this position even came about for you?
Yeah, I met Pharrell through his chief of staff at the time. He had dreamt up Black Ambition, wanting to really kind of close the wealth and opportunity gap in support of diverse entrepreneurs, specifically Black, Hispanic, and then HBCU entrepreneurs. I had been running the Center for Black Innovation in Miami, had co founded a conference called Black Tech Week that we sold a few years ago. So had been doing this work for almost about ten years, and was ready to transition. I just never thought the transition was going to be that, right? And I often tell the story that it was actually a really, what I thought was a really crazy bad meeting, not necessarily, not with P, but with someone who ended up introducing me to his chief of staff. And sometimes your perception of something could actually be the opposite of how it's being received. And so I didn't think the meeting went that well. We just didn't vibe, we didn't click, but the person just kept asking me if I knew about Black Ambition and wanted to connect me with someone. I was like, yeah, I know about Black Ambition. Like I saw all the announcements, all the thing. And it turned into a meeting, a coffee meeting with his chief of staff that then turned into the next day a job offer. It was just like, do you want to be CEO? And I was so surprised by it. I was just like, CEO of what? Like Black Ambition. And it, I would love to tell the story that I said yes immediately, but I didn't because I just was building something at the time. I knew I wanted to transition, but I didn't want to transition in that moment. But when I thought about what Black ambition means, I'm like, my life has been Black ambition personified, right? The lives of my dad, who's an entrepreneur for 30 years, Black ambition personified. My grandfather, being a Jamaican sugarcane and yam farmer, we never thought of him as an entrepreneur, but he was an entrepreneur, is Black ambition personified, right? But also at the same time, you have to think about all the interruptions that stand in the way for Black ambition to reach its most ambitious moment in everyone that identifies in that. And I wanted to be able to do something about that in this way, which I feel in a lot of ways Pharrell has created a rocket ship for the entrepreneurs that we're able to support. Because when we talk about closing the wealth gap, we know one thing: wealth has a need for speed. And the only way that we're going to close the wealth gap and then it doesn't keep widening is we have to deploy capital to really amazing entrepreneurs that we know have a connection back to their community as fast as possible. That's the only way you're going to combat the widening of the gap as fast as possible. And so we get to do that through we call it a few C's, right? And so not just connections and capital, but then also community and care, right? Like we approach entrepreneurship from a holistic standpoint where we're trying to take care of the whole entrepreneur so that they can take care of their whole community and their whole company. And then it's the content, right? Just like this, being able to tell really amazing stories that are not framed in the deficit, that are actually framed as the assets that culture, we know culture to be. Like that's what Black Ambition represents. And so we get to do that through a prize competition and then year-round support of our Black Ambition semifinalists, as well as the companies that we invest in. So we support about 250 entrepreneurs a year.
Speaking of supporting entrepreneurs and also telling their stories,
Yeah.
that leads us to cultural capital. Again, that's that
Mhm.
new series that you are hosting in partnership with NBC Universal. Tell us more about this concept and what you're excited about.
Oof. I'm excited for people to see the stories in the brilliant way that they are told with the imagery, but moreover the respect, right? Like I think we hear Black and Hispanic and diverse entrepreneurs, as brilliant as they are, we hear their stories all the time. They're not always given the respect. And oftentimes what pisses me off about storytelling of amazing entrepreneurs is oftentimes the story starts with the deficit. There's only less than this. They're not quite few of that. These are the horrible statistics. And by the way, there's this one that made it. Like there are full breath stories to be told about diverse entrepreneurs. And I think culture capital really nails it, right? And so when you feel it and you see it, it feels different. It talks about the challenges that these entrepreneurs face because entrepreneurs face challenges every single day. That's why they're entrepreneurs. But it more than anything talks about the huge opportunities that are created by them stepping out on faith, by them building these companies, by them solving some of the world's biggest issues, but then also being connected to community in a way that I think that we just have never heard it before. And so, like between Melinda and Cody and Grace and Wills, like there's so many amazing stories that have come together so beautifully in the way that the production team has put the stories together, but more than anything, the lived experiences of all these entrepreneurs that come together, like with this glue of innovation and passion and storytelling and branding in the way that it has.
Now, I know, Felicia, you serve as the host of this series.
Mhm.
What did you learn or gain by hosting this series and working on this project?
Ooh, I learned that I need to rest between things. So like, we had just come off of Black Ambition demo day, and then I think maybe a day or two later, I flew to Philadelphia to film this, and so stamina, but like passion will always drive you to go from one thing to the next, especially when it's in support of entrepreneurs. But what did I learn? One, I learned the perspectives and the excitement and the breadth and the tenacity of the 9 entrepreneurs that are featured in this. I think more than anything, how creative entrepreneurs are. Like I feel like I know because I interface with so many with Black Ambition and the work that I've done in the past, but these entrepreneurs felt different. How they're building for the future, how they're navigating family and culture and creativity in ways that surprise and also excite me. Like that's what I learned. And then I think the other part of that is got a really cool behind the scenes look of what a massive production, like what that process is internally. So I think I know from a content creation storytelling standpoint. I thought I knew going in. It did not pale in comparison to the amount of people that dedicated themselves to the story, to how beautiful the set was, how beautiful the home was that we filmed in as well. And so being able to get that behind the scenes was just also a gem or an added component that I didn't even think that I knew I needed, but it was a really cool experience, if that makes any sense.
It does. What advice would you give entrepreneurs of color who are looking to compete in today's marketplace?
Ooh. Um, Competition is a really interesting word, right? Because I think if you're not careful, you think it's Hunger Games and everybody is against you. And that's not the case. I think we're no longer competing to the entrepreneur or the small business to the left or the right of us that's in the same space. You have to really kind of arm yourself to be globally competitive. with technology, whether you're in the tech space or not, like you run a tech enabled company. And as a result of that, you have a global marketplace that you can position yourself in. That can sound really big, but that also means that you have a huge customer base, right? And so your friends and family are not your customers, and that's okay. The globe is now like your marketplace. And I'm really, really excited about that. And so go and put your armor on, compete, but then also really think about being collaboratively competitive, right? Say that 5 times fast. Where you want to support people because you want to build a rich and amazing ecosystem so that when you need to extract from it, you can, but you also got to contribute to that ecosystem too. So it grows in support of others. And so like there's that part of compete, but also become collaborative in your competition. And then I would say the last part of that is just go out and get it. We're in really hard times, but entrepreneurship is hard. You're built for this. And so the resources are there like ever before, although they're being tested, right? They're being fought against. There's still a lot of really amazing people, companies, and organizations that are dedicated to supporting you if you look through the opportunities with optimistic eyes, as opposed to only saying there's only challenges and I'll never be able to navigate through that. And then last but not least, be a vessel. And so things are going to come to you, but they got to go through you in support of other people. And in that way, you get to be well fed as an entrepreneur because you absolutely need to be well fed as an entrepreneur. That's why you go into business, is to be able to build wealth and pathway and legacy. But then also those ideas, those dreams, those resources at some point have to flow through you in support of other people so that they get to benefit too. And then everybody gets to be well fed as a result of your brilliant ideas coming out into the world and matching that with the resources, the support, and then matching that with the needs of the marketplace.
Felecia, is there anything else that we should know about cultural capital? And also let us know how we can watch it, how we could stream it.
Yeah, go watch it. It comes out, it's on the 17th. I'm super excited. Not only watch it once, watch it twice, host a watch party, host a panel, dissect the conversation, add to the conversation, do whatever you need to do because we need more storytelling platforms like this. We needed to come back for another season. There's all the things, right? We need to tell 9 other brilliant new stories next year as well. And then they can watch it on Peacock and they can watch it on the Black Experience on Xfinity as well. Sorry about that. And so those are some places that they can watch it, but build community around this and share in the experience of what it means for culture and capital to come together in the brilliant way that it has.
Felecia Hatcher, thank you so much for your time today here in Black Enterprise and also the amount of resources and investment and insight that you are pumping into our community of Black entrepreneurs and creating wealth and legacy for us all. So we appreciate you and what you do. Thank you, sis.
Thank you, Selena, for this moment and sharing the gift that we're putting out into the world. So thank you for sharing your platform with us to talk about culture capital.
Absolutely. Thank you.